Let's call the meeting to order. Roll call, Resty.
Here.
Dr. Carroll, not here yet. Ms. Loretta Tolbert.
Here.
She's here. Dr. Orlani.
Here.
Barbie. Here. Ken.
Yes, ma'am.
And myself are all here. Okay. Rusty, will you lead us in the invocation?
Be glad to. If we all please bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you so much, Lord, for this opportunity to serve our community. We just ask, Lord, that you would speak to us, Lord, and tell us and direct us, Lord, how we can serve you in our community. I ask you to be with each one of the members that gather here, Lord, and those who are not. Watch over, God, protect us, Lord. And again, thank you for our community. And again, let's open our eyes, our ears up, Lord, to do what you have us do this agency. These things do pray in your heavenly name. Amen.
All righty. Let's open it up to public comments.
We have one public comment. It's from Brian Creekbaum. As you know, we are limited to 3 minutes for each comment. Once the 3-minute limit is reached, your comment will conclude and you will not be heard further. And we have.
You got a shot clock ready?
Yeah. Okay, Brian Creekbaum. Stated in my notes. I'm speaking to you today as a citizen of Marion County. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not in the investment business, but around 35 years ago I did a stint as a research analyst for an institutional investment consulting firm. So it sounds like I'm familiar with the institutional investment consulting world, that's why. I've attended most of Marion County Hospital District investment performance reviews for around 10 years. First investment committee meetings and then board meetings when the investment committee ended. Given my limited time, I want to make one simple point today about your performance reporting. This fund has much of its money managed under what's called active management, as distinguished from passive management. Passive management simply tracks an investable market benchmark at relatively low cost. Active management, I meant to start my stopwatch. What am I monitoring for my time? Because I didn't start it. I neglected to.
You have a minute 48.
Can you let me know when I get it to 2.5?
Sure.
Thank you. Active management incurs higher trading costs, commissions, bid-ask spreads, market impact, and higher investment management fees, in the belief the active manager has information that will add value to the benchmark return net of those higher costs. For the total fund, the monthly reporting from your consultant is looking at value at a question only back to 2022. This fund has much more history than that, back to 2014. Just as you are looking at performance back to 2014 for Truist, you should be looking at performance back to 2014 for the total fund. In essence, the board's record, full record, in hiring vendors to add value, net of the higher costs the board incurs in using them. This is a glaring hole in the performance reporting that needs to be corrected. I'm going to stop there, except I picked up the report today, and there is a page that somewhat addresses this in the current Wilshire reporting that we're looking at in this meeting, that says what I said. We're not aggregating back to 2014, and they say Truist is the only one with history that deep, and they report this for Truist.
You're
Of course.
at
2.5. The issue with that is survivorship bias. I sat in all the meetings. Most of them that aren't included, I mean, Truist is a survivor because they were all getting fired off performance. So there's a huge survivorship bias in just looking at Truist. The others probably look worse, and all that history should be included to see what the board's full experience is in buying these expensive products. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. Okay, moving forward.
So that was okay.
Moving forward, if y'all have had a chance to look at the previous 4 minutes,
Move approval.
we have a motion to approve. We need a second.
Motion dies.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Before we move into the CEO update, I would like to welcome our 2 newest board members, Mrs. Loretta Tolbert Rich and Dr. Mark Ortolani. We are thrilled to have both of y'all join us, and we're looking for a lot of success and future success with y'all's help. So thank you for taking on the role. Would y'all like to say anything? Would you like to address anything, give a little background about yourself?
Keep it under 20 minutes, please.
Dr. Ortolani, would you like to go first?
No, but I could talk forever.
Okay, no.
Joke.
Just with my experience in emergency medicine and seeing folks in Marion County from, all different walks of life, suffering from all different ailments and multiple different comorbidities, I'm hoping that I can provide a fresh insight and maybe some out-of-the-box thinking to problems that, we can potentially tackle and solve here in Marion County. So I'm honored and very happy to be here.
Thank you, we're thrilled.
Well, I'm a registered nurse, have been since I was 19. 25 years in correctional health care as well. 11 years as CEO of Ocala Community Care, which provided inmate health care services. I served in the community, SMA, I was on Advent Health Board as well. And just very active, and my passion is marginalized and underserved populations. I think if you bring that up, then the whole county will benefit, will be better. So I think I'm just happy to be on this board, and hopefully we'll be able to help bring up an element that's not previously been there.
Well, we hope so as well. Thank you all both. Kurt, let's move into the CEO update.
Okay, I just have three things that I wanted to cover. The first one is Teresa's allowing me to read this letter from Dr. Vasudin. He asked us to share his letter. He served as a trustee on our board for at least 12 years, and he wrote us a very nice farewell letter that I'm going to share. I want to take a moment to thank each of you for making my journey with the hospital district such a memorable one. When I first joined, I was a naive physician, unfamiliar with the complexities of the financial world. But I quickly got a reality check, and thanks to the guidance of Rich and other outstanding trustees, no longer with the organization, I came to understand the strong foundation they built. They laid down what I would call the constitution of the hospital district, setting the stage for new trustees to carry the torch forward. I'm truly impressed by the current board, Teresa, Rusty, Ken, Stephanie, Harvey, and the two new trustees who will take our place. I'm confident they will continue to exceed expectations and lead the district into a future of tremendous growth. The need is monumental and the will is strong. We just need the right kind of support to leapfrog this endeavor. I sincerely hope for your continued success. I cannot forget the amazing staff who made it all possible. While singling out Kurt and Deb may not be entirely fair, it's certainly justified. A big shout out to all the hospital district staff for their tremendous behind-the-scenes contributions that kept everything running smoothly. I feel truly blessed to have been part of this great organization and to have contributed in my own small way to making a difference in the lives of Marion County citizens. Kudos to all the commissioners, including Kathy Bryant and Michelle Stone, who've been steadfast liaisons with the hospital district. Together with the rest of the team, they helped shape Marion County into what it is today. The farewell gift and gift cards were put together so thoughtfully. I was genuinely overwhelmed and profoundly moved. The notes written by everyone are something I will cherish forever. I'm quite sure Deb had a lot to do with that. Thank you, Deb. Thank you again to all of you. Best regards, Marion Vasudin.
Very nice.
Yeah. I saw him over the weekend for the first time.
Does he look relaxed?
He looked quite intense. And just an update also, we have an upcoming pillar and budget workshop scheduled for September 3rd at 3 to 5 p.m. And when we use the term pillar, we started using this colloquialism a while ago. It's really our health focus areas. We're going to review them and also our current projects. That being our proprietary projects, Beacon Point, Community Home Project, Fitness and Nutrition in Schools, Active Marion Project, and the Fire Rescue Alliance Program. And we'll also look at the performance and ways to either expand or modify existing grants and new initiatives, to expand services or to fill gaps, or to bring new treatments and therapies to Marion County. And then we'll also look at match obligations that we have or that we had in the past, and low-income pool match that we've been providing to Heart of Florida as an FQHC, Federally Qualified Health Center. And then in the end, as part of this discussion, we'll also correlate all of these initiatives and potential new programs and ways to fill gaps to the budget preparation. So that'll be the very first phase of this. And we'll also, before this meeting, send out what we do every year. It's kind of a snapshot of if we continued programs as is from the current year with the projected revenue, what will our budget look like? So you'll have that before the strategic planning workshop. And then the only other thing I want to point out is we had a visit scheduled, now postponed, for Friday. We just found out after we sent this out by Senator Roussan, but he's actually showing up on Thursday for a shorter visit. What's interesting about this is Senator Roussan reached out to Lutheran Services, one of the key funders of behavioral health and substance use disorder services for our county and 22 other counties. And he wanted to find out where are the models for the state for initiatives that he set forth over the many years he's been a senator and a legislator. He comes from Tampa, and he was truly paving the way for legislation on substance use disorder and behavioral health, sat on the Florida's Commission for Mental Health and Substance Use Disorder. He pioneered legislation for peer recovery support specialists that we have quite a few of now in Marion County, which he wanted to see. He also spearheaded mobile crisis response throughout the state and use of telepsychiatry as integration into services in counties. So he wanted to see someone that's actually put it together. And for us, we have the band together of blended funding from Lutheran Services, the hospital district, Marion County, their community services and community development block grants, Department of Health, and other providers of direct services. And we also are filling in the gaps of the central receiving facility and substance exposed newborn facility that's just opening up this year. So the purpose of this is that he can see a model where it's all put together and there's untraditional partnerships that we have in Marion County. And the goal is for him to go back to the Florida Commission on Mental Health and Substance Use Disorder and meet with some of the other legislative friends to show this is what we should be funding throughout the state, and hopefully bring some of those models here and to expand our services. So his actual tour of facilities is postponed until another day, but he will be in briefly on Thursday, and we'll have an opportunity to speak with him and hopefully garner his support. That's all I have.
That's it. Thank you very much. Rusty, do you want to move right on to operations?
And thank you, Madam Chair. First thing on here is we got with us Lauren Devick and Jen Hauser from Creative Springs. They are really our group that we are vendors who handle our marketing and advertise for us, and they have a presentation for us. So I'm going to ask them to please present to us.
Good evening. Thank you guys for having us. I'm Lauren and this is Jen, and like Rusty said, we are part of the Creative Springs team, and we are just so grateful to all of you and all of the work that you do in the community. And it has been such an honor and a privilege to work alongside you over the past few years, but me especially over this past year, and then seeing all of the growth and wonderful things that you guys have accomplished. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and then talk about what we're looking to do in the future. So when we were here last year, our vision, we were casting a vision about not only raising awareness about the great work that the hospital district is doing, but also driving conversion so we could really track the impact that was happening in Marion County. So we wanted to position the hospital district as the trusted authority in the space. We wanted to strengthen connections with other community partners and launch lead generation campaigns to drive conversions. Thank you, Kurt. So how did we do this? Thank you. So as really kind of the marketing arm of the hospital district, that's what you can think of us as. We do the social media, we do creative assets, digital campaigns, video production. I wanted to review just some of the things we did in 2025. We did ongoing marketing, so website maintenance, search engine optimization, updates on the website, monthly social media content for all of the different programs, digital ads, Google and programmatic ads, along with a quarterly AMP newsletter. We also did a host of one-time projects, including brand alignment, which we'll talk about in a minute, video production, the Healthy Ocala directory on the hospital district website. We worked on public relations, including sending local events to publications, along with press releases out to media partners, the annual report, and then a number of creative assets, such as the first responder flyer, the Southeastern Youth Fair AMP flyer, and the Healthy Ocala flyer. So let's talk some numbers and some highlights. Oh, you can go back one more, sorry.
Oh, you got it.
One more. Thank you. So last year around this time, this is what all of the different program brands looked like. They were all uniquely positioned, and we came in with the goal to really visually align all of these different programs so there was recognition for what the hospital district was doing. So now, this is what the new cohesive brand looks like. As you can see, it's all visually aligned. Everything points back to the hospital district. So if someone sees the AMP logo somewhere, they know that the hospital district is responsible for that. And again, just really bringing awareness to the community about the amazing programs and impact that the hospital district is having. We also found that the influence reached new heights, including standout metrics on the website visits, impressions, and social interactions. So we saw a 172% increase in social post impressions over the previous year, and an 89% increase in social post engagement over the previous period. So these far surpassed our goals. We also launched new lead generation campaigns, and part of these were to increase community form submissions on program pages. So Community Home Project, AMP, along with connected TV, so that's Roku, Hulu, if you're watching TV, streaming it. We ran some TV ads on those programs and digital video ad campaigns. From those campaigns, we saw 400 plus increase on different programs, 136 users were assisted or turned into clients. We saw 157,000 in monthly lead generation ad campaigns and over 5,000 monthly views on those connected TV and social video ads. And this success is thanks much in part to the team at the hospital district. So Deb, Jessica, Crystal, Sarah, Brandy, all of you guys are wonderful. Board trustees, you guys are fantastic. So having our monthly meetings where we talk through these analytics really help us optimize what we're doing and the work that we're doing to make sure we're having the impact that we say we're going to have and that we're hitting the goals that we talk about. Also, the launch of additional targeted campaigns throughout the year helped with those metrics. So we're going to talk a little more data and a little more key stats.
All right, I get to nerd out on the numbers with y'all. You see a lot of numbers on the screen, but the thing I really want you to take away is all of the green. All of the metrics we went after significantly increased, and this data is just from the last 9 months. This is not even the full fiscal year yet. But so social post impressions, we've had 4.5 million in the last 9 months. We've had 1.4 million lead generation from our ads. And then social engagement, we're really, really proud of this. 128,000 engagements on social media, which is up at 89%. If you work in social media at all, you know, as a marketer, working with a lot of clients in social media, getting folks to actually respond and engage and care about the content is probably one of the hardest things that we do. And so this number tells us that the folks in the community that we're targeting and that are receiving this content, they care and they're engaged and they want to be a part of it. And so that's one of the metrics we're really, really proud of and happy to see. A few years ago, we had the opportunity to refresh your website, and so we wanted that to be a hub, a resource, a conduit of people to get the information they need to get those services. So we're really happy to see that folks are visiting the site. We've had 40,000 sessions on the site, up 146% from the previous period. 396 inquiries from the community on the different programs. Those were form fills, calls, people reaching out saying, I want to know about the program. different programs, and then 52,000 views on the CTV and Meta, so Facebook and Instagram video ads. And then we've gotten 459 newsletter subscribers, up just a little 410% from the previous year. And then we've got 378 form fills on the website. So across the board, metrics did really, really well, and I'll walk you through now the goals we set. So we are very data-driven at Creative Springs, and so last year when we presented to you, we put numbers in front of you, and so this will walk you through a little of how we did against what we wanted to benchmark. Last year when we were here, we also talked a lot about marketing funnels. If you're here, you remember we talked about how you got to start big and then hone in on the folks that really need your help. And so this is an example. So Community Home Project, we did a contact campaign. So we wanted folks to fill out the contact form. So with a typical marketing funnel, we ran ads on Meta. We got 175,000 impressions. Of those folks, 1,500 actually visited the website. And then of the folks that visited the website, we had 357 fill out the form or give a phone call. So the funnel is working. We're bringing people in, drawing them in. So if you look at in terms of return on your investment, you guys spent $5,000 over the last 9 months on this specific campaign, and you're currently getting leads at $14 per lead. Pretty awesome. And our goal with the budget that we set out with what we wanted to do, you guys were getting 8 last year, we wanted to get 30, and we're currently getting an average of 40 contacts per month through this campaign efforts. Really, really successful. For AMP, so this was our workplace wellness campaign, same concept with that funnel. You'll notice the cost per lead is a little bit higher, at 183. So the goal with this is, increasing folks that are businesses that are engaged in that workplace wellness program. Cost per lead is going to change based on the type of campaign you're running. These folks we're targeting very specific individuals at their businesses. So it's a bit of a more narrow reach that we're trying to target. So you'll see that cost per lead go up a little bit there. We're on our way. So we, last year we were at 0 submissions, and we got it to 2.6 submissions per month. So this year you'll see in our new strategy, we're going to pivot and let this be more of a direct approach through you guys' efforts, and we're going to focus on a different campaign for AMP. And then with the newsletter subscribers, so we set out to build that quarterly newsletter subscribers. These are folks that are saying, hey, I love what you're doing, I want to be involved, I want to stay connected, I want to know ongoing what is going on, I want to be in the know. So we set out to try to get at least 20 per month, and we're currently averaging 51 subscribers every single month through our campaign efforts. You guys have invested $4,000, and you're getting subscribers at $9 per subscriber right now. So really successful, and we want to continue these efforts into the new year. And then the last campaign I will hit on is the private schools joining the program. So similar to that workplace wellness, very, very specific audience targeted. So, and we have a pretty minimal budget of $1,100 on this campaign, which is why you see that cost per lead at $191. And we had 6 form fills from the campaign of private schools saying, hey, I'm interested in the FANS program, which for that type of impact of a whole school, 6 schools saying yes is pretty great. But again, we're going to move our efforts to a different campaign for FANS and let that be more of a direct approach this year. And then we wanted to just call out some of the stats that Healthy Ocala. So this ran starting in December, and so we currently have over 75,000 paid social media impressions, over 350,000 ad impressions, with 4,000 folks engaging on this content. This is brand new. We stood up the logo, the website, the content. This is completely new, so from nothing to something in these the past few months since December. And we've gotten over 52,000 views. One thing I'll call out, we put up the 2 top performing posts that we've had from the last, since December, and I know it's a very small print, but in most of our posts we're calling out MCHD / Healthy Ocala initiative, because we want this to also be a tool to drive folks to your website and continue to get folks to MCHD's website, getting the help and the resources they need, so to continue that awareness of all the amazing programs that you guys are connecting folks with. All right, so what's next? Our evolving impact. So we want to take what we've learned this year, what we've built upon, and continue to just evolve our impact even further. So we've got goals around these 4 programs. NCHD, that primary goal is to continue positioning you all as a trusted authority in Marion County. We want folks to know that you guys are experts, you care, you are truly the folks that they need to go to for behavioral health, substance use, and all of those amazing things that you represent. So I'll let Laura talk specifically through what that looks like. And then for AMP, Beacon Point, and Community Home Project, we want to continue our lead generation efforts. So next year when we're standing in front of you, these are the numbers that we're going to hold ourselves accountable to. So AMP, we want to increase our monthly inquiries. Right now, this was previously the DEEP program, now the Strong People Living Well. We want to get that to about 15 per month. Newsletter subscribers, we're pretty dang happy with 50, so we're going to maintain that. And then with the app, we want to increase the downloads of the AMP app by 50% and get over 1,900 downloads next year. For Beacon Point, we want our web forums to increase from 14 to 20 a month. And for Community Home Project, we want to maintain that 40 inquiries per month on the website.
When it comes to establishing and continuing the hospital district as a trusted authority, the strategies that we would like to implement in 2026 include video production and promotion. We recently did a video shoot, so we have a lot of great content of the hospital district team, community partners, that we would love to utilize for social, for digital, and really we know video tells great stories, so we want to be able to use that content. We want to create an Our Impact webpage. So Jen mentioned we love data, we're driven by data. We want to have a place on the website where we can pull together the data and the statistics and the stories and the impact of the lives that you all are touching. So really create that space where people can go and see those testimonials and see those data points. And then also a collaboration spotlight. So part of this would include a podcast where the hospital district would be the hosts, and bring on experts in the health space. So establish the credibility. A podcast is just another relatable tool and tactic that we can use to reach people in the community. We know they're on social, we know they're on TV, we know they're listening to podcasts. So this is just another way and another engagement point that we can use to reach the folks in Marion County. And then Jen talked about the lead generation campaign for AMP app, so we would love to see more users on AMP, even though I would not like to lose my space as one of the top steppers. I would love to see more people download the app. The Strong People Living Well app campaign, so get more people signed up for those classes. And then strategies for Healthy Ocala. Would love to keep the momentum going with the video content and the digital ads. We're seeing great results from the engagement with Healthy Ocala, and then also those programmatic display ads. So reaching people where they are. They are on the websites, the apps, and the devices. So really keep maximizing that visibility, driving engagement, and then delivering those measurable results to the Healthy Ocala directory page. And at this point, we'd like to thank you guys for the time and ask if anyone has any questions.
Do you want to share that Healthy Ocala is up for an award?
Yes! So we are part of the Florida Public Relations Association, and on Tuesday, we will be going to their Golden Image Gala. Lauren put together the award, and it measures impact, it measures return on your investment. So we know we won something, we don't know what we won, so we got our tickets to go, and we will let you know on Tuesday. What you won. What you won. So, yeah, thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's great. Kurt knows this is something I've been concerned about in terms of reaching the community and the impact. Is there any way to determine what areas of what zip codes are impacted?
Yes, yeah. So we, through our reporting, we're happy to share that as well, but we are very targeted with our campaigns. We are focused on Marion County, not beyond. I mean, the services are specifically targeted to those areas within Marion County.
And then we track in mindshare by zip codes as well. And so we have a map that is being created within mindshare to show you where our clients are.
All dollars that are spent are focused on only the folks that can receive the services.
Thank you.
Great job.
Okay, real quick.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the proposed employee handbook benefit update. So I think that's on page 31. There's a couple things we'll highlight here. One is the paid holidays. We're currently at 9.5 days. We are asking to move that to, I think, 12 total days, to include now Juneteenth Day as well as a full day on Christmas Eve, as opposed to half day, and Good Friday. So the other change is on the mileage reimbursement. We're currently at, I think, 62.5 cents per mile. We are asking to change that to whatever the IRS allows for in mileage. So that would be, I think today as a day, it's 70 cents a mile. So anyways, our mileage reimbursement will coincide with whatever the IRS federal reimbursement rate is. Also on paid time off cash out. Currently now employees can get up to 2 paid time off days of cash out. That is going to be changed into 5 days per year, PTO cash out. And then the wellness day, 1 PTO for wellness also is going to be in existence for next year as well. Or, I mean, excuse me, for the new plan. So those are the proposed changes to the employee handbook.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the mileage reimbursement, we would be requesting approval this time that it would just change as that changes. We don't have to come back.
Correct. It automatically changes
Automatically
anytime the
changes.
IRS changes the reimbursement rate.
So what you said, you have to make a motion, or do we have to?
Yeah, this is an action item, so I just was went over all the changes that you're going to see in the employee benefits.
So we would need a motion
Yeah.
if everyone.
Also, I mean, what, was he saying it like a motion, or we seconded it?
No.
No, I was not making, I was just kind of updating you as to what the plan changes are in the employee benefits.
You need a motion.
But I do need a motion.
I'll
All right, so we have a motion.
I was just trying to find a first or second.
Okay.
Your turn.
Do we have a second? We have a second from Ms. Rich. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Also, the balance scorecard, we have a pretty full agenda tonight, so I'm not going to ask to go over the balance scorecard in detail, but it is in your package. We also will be going over that in a lot more detail at our workshop as well. So the update is, I need you to read the balance scorecard update in your package. The thing is the DCF apportionment renewal contract. You need to remind me what that's on.
Okay.
Oh, you did, thank you.
So, if you recall, the hospital district applied on behalf of CASA Marion, our current domestic violence provider, for funding through the legislation, this past legislation for appropriation funding of, we asked for $1 million, hoping that CASA Marion still had $500,000 left over from the first appropriations that we applied for, and we were hoping that it was going to be able to be carried forward into this next fiscal year. However, we don't think that happened, but because Senator McLean was making that request, he reduced the $1 million ask for appropriation to $500,000, hoping that the other would be able to be carried forward and as a whole it would be $1 million. At this point in time, it was only $500,000 that we got in appropriations funds. The hospital district manages it on behalf of the state of Florida, the Department of Children and Families. We're just kind of a pass-through, and we do all the managing and monitoring of those funds with the provider, CASA Marion. This is a renewal. Our legal team has already reviewed it and approved of it as it looks. It's just a continuation of the current contract that we have.
So when it says the total amended contract amount is $1.5 million.
So our first contract was $1 million, the first $1 million appropriation. So they amended it just to add the extra $500,000 that we got.
But we
Even
never-
though they didn't spend it, they have to return it.
They have to return it, okay. So-
Because their fiscal year
So in
ends.
essence, the new money available to them is $500,000 this year.
Correct.
And are we dead in the water on recycling the old money again, or is it still up for debate, or is it likelihood?
So the likelihood is that it was not carried forward because there's this term that's used. Usually they'll put something on the back of the bill that has some notes about, and after asking Stan and his legislative assistant, they don't see that the back of the bill information is carried forward in anything. So they're still reviewing, but I would just count on that we got our $500,000 appropriation.
Yeah, well, and to that point, I mean, is there things that did not occur that should occur to get the $500,000 that wasn't spent?
So they had a bunch of buckets of funding that they got, and you have to CASA Marion did,
Right.
and so some of the federal funding you have to spend first, then the state funding, you have to spend a certain amount. So they did not, we worked really hard with the organization to ensure that they
They spend-
maximized every dollar. Unfortunately, we're still at $500,000 that they did spend.
There may have been things that CASA could have done to rearrange how they spent out of each bucket that we didn't have control over. So there may have been things that could have been done.
So the need was there potentially, but because of whatever nuances that go along with getting funding or spending the money, it's not really adhered to. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I think with the $500,000 going forward, do we have any oversight over that to help
Yes.
them make sure they spend it when needed?
Correct.
Yes, and that's part of this contract.
And I'm also on their finance committee.
Now, so we would need an approval to renew the contract.
Yes.
So we would need a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion from Ken. We need a second.
Second.
We have a second from Rusty. Any questions? All right, all in favor? Motion passes.
Chair, the last on my slate here is it's that time of year again, we do our board officer selections. And so up for grabs this year is the chairman, vice chair, and secretary and treasurer. And I think we also, secretary treasurer is all one position. We can either do them all at one time, which is basically, well, you can't do what last year was because Ron is no longer on the board.
Right.
So at your wish, Madam Chair, do you want to take them one at a time?
Yeah, we can take them one at a time.
Okay. So the first one is up to grabs is the chairman, and so I need to entertain a motion to appoint a chairman for this next year. And I'd like to appoint Teresa Stevens as the chairwoman.
Do I say second? Second.
Right?
Third.
Okay.
All righty.
Good question.
Any questions?
All right. Next is the vice chairman. So we need to entertain anybody up for vice chairman?
I propose Rusty.
All right. Okay. And then secretary treasurer.
I would like to nominate Ken.
I like
It's the
to
same train.
Same train.
Same train.
You're getting on.
Yeah, once your name is up, you just.
That's fine.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Is that-
That's it? That's what we got?
I was just going to say for an official vote, you want to,
Yeah.
someone make a motion for that slate. Let's just, that way we have a formal motion second vote.
So moved.
All right, so we have a motion,
Motion.
and we have a second. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
And the next on my is legal, and I'll turn it over to our esteemed council member, Matt McKay.
Thank you, Trustee Branson. We have two legal updates. First, for our new trustees at the last board meeting, we received a notice of the proposed sale of Monroe Regional Home Care from under our lease with Advent. We've got they're defined as a joint venture entity. When a joint venture entity is sold by Advent, we have the option to either accept the transfer of the interest in the entity, no additional cost, or to receive the net proceeds of the sale. What I advised the trustees at our last meeting was that Advent did not have a proposed or a formalized purchase price for the entity. I've spoken with them since. That has not changed, but they did grant us a 90-day extension to make a decision while they continue to negotiate the purchase agreement. So we've got until November 2nd, 2025 now to elect which of those two options to proceed under. And they were very open with me. It was a very good conversation. enjoyed working with, and I'm confident we're gonna see some movement on it the next month or two, but that's about what's happened there. We just have a 90-day extension through November. We also have Advent has requested that we execute a utility easement. The backstory there is there's a right-of-way between two parcels that are owned by the hospital district and are encumbered by the lease. The Advent wants to build some new parking by these new parcels, and to get that, they need to abrogate the current right-of-way, and the city won't let them abrogate without executing utility easement to basically continue. But I think there's a water line in this alleyway. It's about 8 feet wide, so in exchange for abrogating the right-of-way, we have to approve this utility easement. There is in Article 16 of the lease, we're required to cooperate if Advent does request that we execute an easement of some sort. So I would recommend the trustees to approve it. And I'm happy to answer any questions the trustees may have.
Yeah, Matt, on the sale of the home care, what documentation are they delivering to us to substantiate this thing is losing $968,000?
Good question. So they've agreed to provide us the backup documentation. Now, I don't know what that is yet, but they've agreed. I said, because they previously provided essentially a spreadsheet, and I basically told them we need the backup for the information in the spreadsheet. They've agreed to provide that. My suspicion is it'll all come once they have a purchase agreement. It's actually executed with the formal contract price.
I'm just curious from a procedural perspective. So we have a 90-day extension on our. How is that documented?
We got a letter from them right here, actually. So they say
is it unilateral?
It's both parties have agreed to it essentially. I mean, we wouldn't want to proceed with it because we just don't have the information necessary to make a decision, and they, I think recognize that position that they can't move forward under the lease without providing us the documentation we need.
Wouldn't be too much to ask for Matt, you and your team to review whatever documentation that we get from the hospital to kind of just opine on what they're telling us.
Yeah, just basically approve the information summarized for you guys to review.
Yeah, of course.
So do you need a motion?
And just to turn back to our, we do need a motion. We don't need a motion on the extension, but we do need a motion to approve
move approval on the abrogation of utility easement.
Okay, so we have a first, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Rusty. Any questions? All in favor? Motion passes.
That concludes the operation.
Okay, thank you. All right, is Wilshire in? Okay. All right, wonderful. Let's just move right into investments.
Hi, good evening, all.
Hello.
There we go.
Everyone hear us?
Yes.
Right.
Floor is yours.
All right. Share my screen and it will get started.
Jump in to start by talking about market overviews, and even I'm just going to use that index summary slide as a placeholder. I know there's a lot of numbers going on, but I'm going to talk through the themes of what we saw. Luckily, the second quarter was good for markets. The U.S. market was up 11.1% during this time period, and sector performance was largely positive. Information technology and communication services, as you might expect, performed best of all, in a continuation of the trends we've been seeing. And other prevalent trends remain the same as well. Small cap underperformed large cap, and growth outpaced value. We move a couple of pages to page 5, Nathan. Since it is a quarterly review, we do like to include peer group analysis. We know that over the shorter term, the fund composite performance relative to that peer performance is disappointing, and that performance history gets only slightly better if you look back since inception, but that's as of October 2022, so that's still a relatively short period. And there are, I like to contextualize this slide like this because I know it can be a bit jarring. There are some large asset allocation differences driving those numbers, say a top quartile performer versus median and beyond. And some of those differences are things like higher allocations to public equity, higher allocations to VC and private equity. So the results will differ given our mandate and the focus. And I'll expand on this more in a second so you can understand what I'm talking about. If you flip to page 10, Nathan, I'll breeze past the asset allocation since much hasn't really changed there since we talked about it last month. We typically show this exhibit on slide 10 as a check that over the long run, the portfolio market value net of cash flows is keeping up with inflation, which is an important goal for us. But if you flip to page 11, actually, Nathan, I know the conversation came up during the last meeting that it was a little confusing how we were showing these exhibits and what exactly are we trying to get at as a litmus of how the portfolio is performing. So Nathan, Jaden, and I went back to the drawing board and put our heads together to try to find a better way to see how we can show you that the portfolio, is tracking against its goals. And the challenge, as a reminder for everybody, is that only Truist of the three providers actually has a 10+ year track record, which is the long-term period we would like to see to evaluate how things have really gone. So in light of this, we're using their track record as a proxy for the total portfolio performance so that we can do this sense check. And it's not a perfect measure, we know, but it's still pretty useful to examine given that we know all three providers are managing to the same asset allocation with some differences along the way in terms of how they'll tilt or how they'll implement, but the same asset allocation across the board. And by our estimation, I know you've heard Nathan and I throw the statistic out there so many times, we do believe asset allocation drives about 90% of portfolio results. So this is, a sensible way to look at that. Two key points that we want to pull out here when you look at the numbers that we found when we did that analysis. The first is that Truist has underperformed the investment objective of CPI +4 over this time period, while the actual benchmark itself has exceeded this objective. So that tells us, too, that the asset allocation over this time frame has worked, or we've gotten that part right. It's just the active management piece that has struggled, and depending on which part of the portfolio we're talking about active management, and that can make quite a big difference in results. And Nathan's going to talk about that a little bit more when we get to the provider dashboard. The last slide I wanted to touch on is slide 12, so that you have an idea of total fund results. The total fund returned 4.4% for the quarter, which is 21 basis points ahead of the benchmark. And this brings the total portfolio market value to $317 million as of the end of June. A positive, encouraging note to see is that the diversification that we have implemented along the way has served you very well. Specifically, the diversified marketable alternatives composite has added a good bit of value since its inception last April, which we're happy to see. If there are there any questions about anything that I've covered?
Yeah.
Okay, let me,
Just confirming, so the Truist data that you shared, how much, so that's not a function of the asset allocation, that's a function of how well they actively managed the fund within that given asset allocation relative to the benchmark?
yeah, put a different way, if they did nothing but invested in the passive options for all of the asset allocations that we've selected, that's what they would do. So that's really a judge of how well the active managers that they selected in each one held up against those respective benchmark results.
So we paid a premium to do worse?
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, over the long run, that's
Just trying to boil it down to, something the guy in a tie-dye shirt can understand. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your question. If there are no other questions, I'm going to turn it over to the main event for Nathan to get into the dashboard.
All right. right. Thank you, EP, and good questions so far. So the purpose of today's dashboard is really to provide an update to the trustees, with which we've had one-on-one training earlier this year, and then obviously for Marita and Dr. Otolani, this may be drinking from a fire hose, but if you have any follow-up questions, we're happy to engage with you on them one-on-one, and obviously we can raise this as part of your onboarding training when we get that scheduled. So as a reminder, on slide 2, there's 2 distinct elements of our dashboard. One is quantitative, that's left of the solid blue line, and that's really backwards looking, which looks at the results. EP's talks about a lot of these, but we're just looking at it with greater detail, frankly. And then the more forward-looking dashboard is the qualitative element you see on the right-hand side. So just a quick takeaway on the left-hand side, which is more positive, from a 3-year return perspective, which is the longest period that we can actually compare all 3 providers. Every single provider has outperformed the CPI plus 4 target. So as EP said, that's not true since inception. That's not true over the entire length of the investment program, but it is true over the last 3 years. And clearly that's a result of inflation kind of coming off the 2022 highs, as well as just frankly very, very friendly equity markets over the same period. What we do see longer term is frankly exactly what EP used to just said, which is that if we look here we've only got the 7-year numbers because that's essentially the longest period we've got for Crescent, so you have a means of comparison. But you see Truist returns 632, that's this number here, Crescent 654, but the CPI number over the same period is 763. And you see a similar picture where the benchmark return of 760 is essentially exactly in line, plus minus with its strategic objective, which is our North Star. It's active management, which over the period has been unsuccessful and has led to a lower asset value than otherwise would have been the case. Moving on to the qualitative elements, this just is an overview of the framework we use. So we have 3 key columns that we are really judging each of the OCIO managers on. We have a lot of underlying questions within each one. Really what we're trying to do is to see to what extent is each provider distinguished in terms of the extent, the depth and breadth of knowledge within their organizations, specifically for non-profit institutional investors just like yourselves. Within manager research, we look at the size of teams, the resources that they bring to bear, the level of specialization, as well as the success of an active manager track record and the quality of research reports that back up why they've chosen a specific manager for a different part of your portfolio. And finally is what I like to refer as the kind of Walmart test, the value for money. By investing alongside all of their other clients, they should be able to achieve economies of scale and therefore negotiate lower fees with the underlying managers, and you yourselves would be able to achieve going to them directly. If we look at how the kind of current scores set out, really what we see is Truist scores very, very highly from a firm and team perspective, but more average, achieves a more average score from a managed research value for money perspective. Crescent is kind of average to slightly above average across the board, and Greystone has the highest overall scores, but it's really the value for money where they shine a lot, and I can demonstrate that on the following page. But one point just to note is this is the first quarter we've actually spoken with all 3 OCIO providers. We've actually shared the scores with each provider, and we've explained how this is used as a managerial or an input to a managerial decision tool. And so I'm happy to report that the quality and transparency of data continues to get better on a quarter-by-quarter basis. And then the final point here is that this scoring is as of 3:31. So we are currently waiting for the responses to the 6:30 questionnaire, but the intention is by the time we have the one-on-one trainings with each trustee in August, and particularly when we have the investments workshop in September, we'll have the full 630 picture to bring to that meeting and really get into the so what and how do we take this investment program forward question. So to end this presentation, I just thought it would be helpful, again, to probably act as a reminder and a refresher in the trustee's mind. How do we distinguish Truist from Crescent from Greystone when we think about them? And even though there are probably 50 plus questions that feed into this assessment, what are some of the key ones that we can kind of keep in the back of our minds as we evaluate this investment program? So for Truist, and you can see some of the data here, really what we see is that they have a very large dedicated nonprofit team, almost 30 employees, that's very experienced. They have a good sized client base. The 22 clients specifically refers to the clients of your size, so 100 million to 500 million. Truist tends to have quite a lot of clients on the smaller end of that spectrum. But I think a key proof point here is that these clients trust them and have trusted them for almost 2 decades. So that's a key element that contributes towards their score. Where we see more average results are in the depth and breadth of their manager research. Now they've got a relatively small number of individuals who are contributing to manager research. I'd say that's less of a concern for traditional assets and more of a concern for alternative assets, given the size of the market and given the level of specialization that's needed to actually achieve benchmark returns or exceed them. And finally, on the value for money, there's only one tangible example to date of a fund where, by lieu of investing through Truist, you're achieving a lower fee load. But I think we expect this to probably improve in future, and the onus is on them to get us the transparency of data. So that score may well change when we get to the 630 numbers. So that's Truist. Crescent, in terms of what's different for Crescent versus Truist, one, we see they don't have a dedicated institutional team. So the number of advisors that they have is actually similar, if not slightly larger than Truist, but what you'll find is that they work with a number of high net worth individuals, taxable family offices and investors, as opposed to non-profits. So they lack that, call it exclusive specialization on non-profits that the other two bring. And the other differentiating factor is the tenure. The average length that they partnered with clients is less than a third of Truist. So they score more at the 6 out of 10 level versus 7.5 out of 10 level for firm and team. Somewhat offsetting that, they do have a larger research team, particularly within alternatives, and they have more of a specialization there historically. Although, again, I would note I think it was February of this year, a number of their resources spun out to form P-Client partners. So a number of I think what made them very differentiated from an alternatives perspective is a bit more of a question whether that's truly a plus for their scoring. So we're in a bit of a holding pattern there. And then finally, I will note on value for money, even though they score higher than Truist, we did actually reduce their score over the quarter because we peeled back the onion and found that there was really only a few funds, 1 or 2 funds, that they're achieving a discount that you can achieve by investing directly. So that's Crescent. And then finally for Greystone, what you tend to see with Greystone, and probably for the region and also Otolani, Greystone is part of Morgan Stanley, so it's a huge Wall Street behemoth that has a lot of resources and institutional caliber that they bring to bear. And so what you will see that they have, for example, much larger client base, they have a much larger size of research team in traditional and alternatives research. What you do tend to find with them is that the average experience of their employees is lower though. It's not drastically lower, but it is lower. So that kind of feeds into their firm and team score. One notable change over the quarter was actually the previous data that was provided for the average tenure, the length of partnership with clients, was only at the local office level where TJ and Adam work, and not for the entire Greystone Consulting. So when we got that updated figure, I think the average went down by almost a factor of 3 to about 6 years. And so we reduced their score correspondingly. I think where you see Greystone shine though is 2/3 of their funds, they actually negotiate Greystone specific discounts, and the magnitude of those discounts are really meaningful at 43%. So there is that kind of bulk buy economies of scale benefit coming through for you. I'll pause there, stop sharing unless there are any specific questions. I did just want to probably summarize, because again, that's a lot of information, that we do have one-on-one training coming up in August. I think we've scheduled 5 of the 7 meetings, so if you haven't responded to Evie or myself, please do so. And I think how we take this forward is really within those trainings and specifically in the workshops we're going to try and schedule for mid to late September. And with that, I'll pause and pass that to Teresa unless there are any questions.
So I will just remind everybody, we have been working, not we, Wilshire and us, have been working on this for months on end to get us a tool that we can use to review the investors that we have, the OCIOs that we have. And as Nathan mentioned, we were not getting some information early on by some of the investors they did not want to share. They now understand the importance and how they look and how they stack against each other, and the need to share that information. So this is still, we've got some tweaking to do to it, but it is a great tool to get us started. It also helped us dig down into the fees, as we previously just had an overview of what our fees were that we were paying. Now we understand down to account level what fees we were paying, and so it is a tremendous amount of work that Wilshire has put in to get us to this point.
So Nathan, if you were the teacher and you're grading these 3 papers, what grade would you give Truist, Crescent, and Greystone as of 3/31?
We actually have rather than me do anything on the fly, which is always hugely dangerous, as EP and Jane will tell you, we actually have the scores on slide 5.
Yeah, you got 2 Fs and a C.
Well, that's what, and I guess the red would be an F?
Yeah. Okay. Well, and then that was, I was coming at the same thing as either, you know, your grading scale is too tough, you know, or we've got some very poor performance on the metrics that we're looking at. And I'm just trying to get calibrated, you know, what would you expect? You know, so if we were doing this for your company and one of them was overseeing it, what score would be an acceptable score? What would you be targeting to be, you know, what would be a score that you'd feel comfortable with? And, you know, if the rating is skewed to the negative and a 10's impossible, well then, you know, we got to do something with the scale. But if this is an accurate performance or reflection of the performance they have relative to what we found good, you know, I think it's an F and F and a C. Okay. But that, I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't think it's an FF and a C. I think that what would be a good score here, I would say 7 out of 10 is a good score here. Like, there's no getting away from the fact, like Evie's slide that she talked through is the lack of successful active management is the biggest challenge that we're facing. It's not getting the asset allocation right. It's that active management has not been successful and continued. I know Bush has only been in place for a couple of years now, but continued to not be successful when we look at the data for quite a long period of time. And so there isn't somewhat inevitability that, you know, Truist and Crescent, that's going to, and Greystone to an extent, that's going to ding their scores. You know, I would be looking to try and achieve 7 out of 10 across the board here. I think we have, again, I don't want to kind of get into it now, so we go way down the rabbit hole, but everything that we've been doing is to create meaningful, transparent input to have this so what discussion. Like it's impossible for me to sit here and say, okay, this is how Wilshire would score, because
No, I'm not asking that.
I will say that we kind of had that discussion when we were putting together the questions, saying, okay, well, how many researchers do we have, or what's the success of our own track record? But I feel like we've been intellectually honest with trying to create this framework. We've not tried to do something that makes us look good and everyone else look bad. We're trying to do something that one is apples to apples. So it's a fairer playing field as possible, highlights the actual differences between the providers. And then I think how we take it forward is almost looking historically over 10.5 years, but this is how we've run this investment program, this is the framework that we've had, what's working, what's not working, and what options are available to us.
So again, just playing back, and I'm trying to understand, so the qualitative dashboard, that's the long list of questions about the firm, their competencies, their capabilities. Nothing, and that's independent from the actual financial performance. So the financial performance was more on slide 83, is that correct?
Yes, of your dashboard, yes, that's correct. Okay. It starts in 81, so this is 83, yes.
And so, with again, same question, the best of those three ranked, 58th in their peer group. And I don't know, is that something that you would expect to see, that the best over the last 3, 5, and 7 years that our group ranked was, at the midline? Most of them are in the bottom quartile, and then similarly, the only entity that returned a positive return over the policy benchmark, which is passive management, if I understand that correctly, was Crescent at the 3-year term. Everybody else underperformed, doing nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I understand.
2 points there on the peer group. The final point is yes, that's accurate, and that's I think outside of Crescent and initially Greystone, but over shorter time periods, it has been consistent on the performance versus the benchmarks. That's the problem.
Okay.
The peer group, 2 things to note though, that we've chosen a peer group that's deliberate and intentional, but this is, of the 3 performance measures, this is the least important, because there's almost 500 members within this peer group. They're all trying to do slightly different things. They have varying constraints. One thing we've noticed that's I don't want to say unique, but much more distinct to Marion County Hospital District is the importance of this funding to the local 501c3 partners in providing the care for county residents. And so we are trying to achieve CPI plus 4 with the minimum amount of risk. There are others that take far more risk that would frankly, over, let's say, 7 years' time, would expect to outperform us. Mm-hmm. But do note, over the 7-year period, our benchmark has beaten the median. So I would be shocked over 7-year periods, because we're more risk averse, for us to be top quartile. Okay. But I do think that we could be second quartile, or very, maybe third, but a lot closer to the median. Ultimately, the North Star is CPI plus 4, and then we have the benchmark comparison, because that distinguishes between are we as Wilshire, and I guess collectively as a trustee group, getting the asset allocation wrong and therefore it's our fault, or is it active management, and then we have to assess why the reasons are.
Other questions for Nathan? Guys, thank you so very much for all the work you've done. And we're going to see you next month in person, right? No, September. September,
see you in person. August, talk to you a lot on the phone.
Okay.
Take care now, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Dr. Marion?
Hi. So we are talking about tonight is Harlow's Helping Hands, which is a nonprofit organization all about preventing drowning in Marion County. And they have some life jacket loaner stations at certain Marion County lakes, and they would like to add a new one at Ray Wayside Park. And these stations This station would cost about $5,317, and they will be like life jackets for these families to use for free. Also, they will possibly put like a QR code or something on the sand that has something to do with the Marion County Hospital District.
Creative Springs helped them come up with a thing to put on. We helped them a lot with marketing material and things like that through Creative Springs and messaging. So the loaner stands will have information about drowning prevention and safety. But will also acknowledge the hospital district. We'll have a QR code to put you back to website that will give you information about water safety and prevention and that type of thing.
So we would need a motion to give them the $5,317 they need.
Is this on 40? Railway
I
side?
know, where is
Boat
Railway
Basin?
Side Park?
Boat
It's in
Basin?
Silver Springs.
The boat basin.
Yes.
Basin.
Correct.
So,
Is this like they would take it and use it and bring it back?
Yes.
correct.
How are they monitored? I'm just curious.
It's going to be more of an honor system, but hopefully the messaging on there shows that, the reason why you should return it, kind of thing. It will have Carlo's hands, logo and everything all over it, so if somebody were to take it and try to use it again, everybody would know where it came from. Traditionally, obviously, Kurt or I could approve it based on the financial policy. The reason why we're asking for assistance with this one is to where that funding would come from for that particular ask.
And Matt,
Yeah, the trustees have an undesignated fund balance of $760,830 for this fiscal year. So,
okay, so we have it there. Rusty, you have any questions?
No, I mean, this is our project, or it's not our project?
It's not.
We're just
It's
funding it.
a work with Carlo's hands.
And they're prepared to, I guess, oversee the key. Okay, thanks, great idea.
So this is just one, but we have other plans to do it in Carney Island, it would be the next one. This actually was Harvey's idea, and this is, I believe, if you want to zoom in on the little, this is kind of what it would look like.
Dr. Orlando.
Harvey actually came up with this idea.
I didn't know, I just took a picture.
Took a picture.
Dr. Orlando, did you have a question?
This will be the initial one, the first one,
correct,
as a pilot.
Yeah, we'll see how it works and if everything's returned and if it's effective, and then hopefully we can collect some data on utilization. Determine.
Yeah, and that would, I guess one of the things we do a really good job of is getting, data and feedback. So if you could set some, defer to y'all on what those would be, but some performance, utilization, how many got stolen after, per quarter, what's the.
Let's have a cost of that.
Oh,
You sound like we're gonna.
you are not that naive.
I have a question.
What the over-under is, how long they last,
I have a question on the sizes that we choose to put out there.
I have, there's 53 of them that will be purchased, and they're like various sizes.
For the kids, the sizes for the
Infants
kids.
versus,
And
There's a bunch of different sizes for maybe some larger children. It equates for that. It's not all sizes.
are we buying or they're buying?
We would buy
I know we're
them.
paying for it, but we
We're
actually.
paying for them, I'm having them, I would have, if you guys approve it, I would have them shipped to them.
I'm just curious, why would we buy them? Why don't they, it's 4 Carlos helping hands, why don't we give them the money they buy them?
Because it seemed, like, we would write them a check, they would write them a check, so we're just gonna.
That's what it is with everything we do.
So I mean, I'm not to get that easier, but we're not liable if we buy them.
No, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
To answer your question, honestly, as long as we don't own them, we're not liable. If we're the owners of them, then it's a different discussion, but
I think, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I think I have to abstain just because of, it's my nephew that runs that.
okay,
So just to be safe, I just want to.
okay.
I have a form for them, a conflict of interest form for them as well.
is there other questions?
I I'll make a motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, support.
Okay, we have a second, and any other questions?
Just to confirm, the hospital district's logo is not on the,
Correct.
okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
You're okay with
Yes.
being buoyant.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Next thing is, this is really exciting. Marion County is getting some psychiatry residents. And because this is a cool fact, we are below the Florida state average of mental health professionals. The average is 142 per 100,000 population. We only have 90, which I can definitely agree with as a health professional. But we will have between Marion and Volusia counties ultimately 40 residents, but right now we have 4 psychiatry residents. That the long-term goal would to keep some of these residents after they finish their psychiatry residency and serve Marion County, which would be amazing. But they need money. SMA Healthcare needs money for housing for these people. Just in a couple of months, right? For August and September, they're requesting $18,000 for us to help house these psychiatry residents.
Is it just going to be?
But it's
for the 2
just
months?
for the 2 months.
So, we kind of started this whole thing when SMA Healthcare took over from the centers. One of the biggest issues they ran into was they could not find, and they're required to have a psychiatrist that oversees and writes off on and oversees many of the services there. And it was just a desert for psychiatrists in particular, particularly with them going right there and them really cornering the market on bringing psychiatrists there at a teaching facility. So we have to do a lot to entice these individuals to stay here. So we challenged SMA with, help us work on a program so we can find a way of enticing this group, which is very rare to come to Marion County. And they said, we developed a graduate medical education program, a 4-year program, and they said, we'll find the funding. They're paying these individuals going through the program a small amount every year. And after they started, they asked the residents, how are things going? And they said, really, the biggest issue we have is affordable housing in Marion County. And so they said with the little amount that we're getting during the graduate program, they are providing services during this time. They are actually providing psychiatric services while they're doing their rounds at Beacon Point, the hospitals, and SMA Healthcare. So they said really housing is our biggest hole where we don't have any funding right now to ensure that these individuals want to stay here and not potentially go to, let's say, Daytona, which is the other campus. So I say go ahead, write up a proposal. So this would be for reimbursement for up to $1,500 per month for rental assistance for these individuals, and up to 6 individuals, because they have 4 now, but by the time I read this, they might have 6 currently in Marion County in the residency program.
So it's a stipend.
It's a stipend.
We're not finding a facility or renting it. Okay.
So,
And that money's not going to the students, or is it, to the doctors, or is it going to be paid by
it's
SMA?
going to be paid by SMA. SMA would manage it. The students, they'd have to be in good standing. They would have to present what their expenses are, and then it would have to be pre-approved by SMA for reimbursement.
And this is a one-time event?
Yeah.
For 2 months, just to.
Yes, just 1 year.
Yeah, let me get sure. There's students there now, correct? But they're looking at launching a full GME program, or they've started a full GME program?
They've started.
4-year
They started.
residency.
Yes, they've started.
What is their annual compensation currently?
50,000.
50,000. housing? And does it go up annually each single year like most other residency programs?
It should. They don't have that funding locked in yet. They're insured 50,000 so far, but they've applied for more funding. They've also applied for funding for housing. They just said that for that funding to come in, it'll probably be 1 to 2 years, probably sooner based on their application.
I have to look at the numbers again, but each resident is allocated X amount of federal funds, per year based off an overall GDP program.
Right.
Now, they have 2 campuses,
Yes.
is that correct? So this is one GME program for residents split between 2 sites, correct?
No, I'm sorry. So there's 10 residents altogether, split between Marion County and Daytona. Volusia.
And
yeah.
in Volusia County, they have the capacity to take all 10?
Not yet, but they're ramping up each year. The goal is 2020.
And they have more participation in Marion County than with the hospitals and whatnot versus in Volusia currently.
And it's one program director for both sites.
Correct.
That's interesting. Actually, have a resident program on 2 different sites.
I mean, the goal would be to get them in Ocala so that the hope would be they stay here.
Yes.
Most residents, generally speaking, when they move into attending ship, practice in the area they trained.
So that's not a bad strategy.
It's not a bad strategy. The more folks that you can entice into the area from a training perspective, they integrate into the
They're
community.
there for 4 years and they set some roots.
Yeah, correct, so they're gonna stay.
And
It's
we
not
reduce
the
the
goal
cost
of the
of
rule, but,
locums.
yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, clinically, we are very underserved from a psychiatry standpoint, so.
So where will these funds come from?
Our
Still have 700.
Okay. Just what you're saying.
600.
From an optics perspective, does it look, I mean, whether it's, I don't know, I'm just asking the question. Buying housing for people sounds less aligned with a pillar than, paying, we pay for salaries of counselors all the time. That's very consistent with what we historically do. Is there any optical consideration? Money's fungible. You give them $1 for this, they can use it for, however they choose to do it. Is there any consideration on, that's the ask, but we can answer it a different way if it makes any difference. And again, I'm just, y'all know the waters better than I do. This was a question.
It's a stipend.
It's a stipend allotted to a resident specifically.
Yeah.
And this
So-
is how much per,
Like 15.
1,500 per,
1,500 max per person per month.
over the
up
course
to
of?
6, for Marion County,
So
right?
it's for the course of how long? Just 2 months?
Yeah, it's the remainder of our fiscal year.
So they're hoping to get money for next year.
Yeah.
So what's the
total?
total? One time that's
8,000.
But they're gonna ask again in 2 months.
Yeah, we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
We won't recommend it if it's not keeping people here.
Okay.
Correct.
Because then you're looking at moving forward, if they ask more, that's 10.5 per month on a consistent monthly basis.
Right. And,
If they get 6 residents.
right.
And they're trying to agree.
Okay.
I have a question for the attorney.
Yes.
Because I'm currently on the SMA board. Is it any kind of conflict to vote on this?
Yes, are you a voting member of the SMA board?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
So you have to sign.
And Harvey, just to your previous question, I looked it up. They do not extend the definition of relative for conflicts of interest to a nephew. It does extend to brothers, sisters, parents, children, grandchildren, but for whatever reason, they cut it off at brother, sister. So.
Same story as what you taught us.
That's right.
Okay. So Ms. Richard will have to conflict out.
Right.
Is there any questions? Under statement, Stephanie?
No, I think you do great.
Did I make a motion?
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Yes, you do.
And just one final question.
Yes.
We're just approving it just for the remainder of the fiscal year currently.
That is
Yes.
correct. Okay, other questions? Then all in favor?
All right.
All right.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. Okay, everything all the quarterly updates for AMP, bands, and CHIP are in your packet. So in the interest of time, if we have any questions, we can ask you, but if not, we will look in our packets for these quarterly updates. Are we okay with that? Yes.
And staff is always available to answer any individual questions once you look at them.
24/7.
24/7.
Yeah.
We're going to test that out. Dr. Harold, thank you. Matt?
All right, thank you. We have two items on the agenda on finance tonight, and both were included in the packet in advance. The first being the financial statements as of and for the year-to-date period of June 2025. This is the end of the third quarter of this fiscal year for the organization. We remain in a pretty positive position with the investment balances having increased significantly during the month of June. All trends are pointing positive there, as mentioned by Wilshire earlier, as far as return. There were no unexpected income items or expense items or obligations that needed to be paid, so the financial statements are healthy and consistent with the budget. Anybody have any questions about financials included in the packet?
If there's no questions, we need a motion. We have a motion? We have a second? Second, all right. Any questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Last page of the packet is the MRMC Region's pension account. Just to remind the trustees, Hospital District used to manage the Marion Monroe Regional Health System, which operated as MRMC. It had a pension plan for its employees, its eligible employees. So during the sale and release and subsequent periods, that pension was fully funded, and then the obligation to administer those funds forward were, I'm going to probably not use the right word here, were basically assigned or transferred to another organization, which we compensated to manage the remainder of the plan and the benefits to the beneficiaries. We've held an account open at Regions Bank that was in the name of this pension for a very, very long time. It currently has $91,000 of money sitting in it. That money can be released to the hospital district whenever we feel it's appropriate. That money was sitting there in case there were any other expenses, obligations, et cetera. The pension wind down took several years and many different layers of review and audits and extension payments, et cetera. So we feel comfortable now, though, that the $91,000 will be unencumbered and are free to be released to the hospital district to be used as operational cash flow. And that's the request tonight.
Okay, I know we have questions.
No, this has just been going on a long time, and I think we've exhausted about all of these calls to get these people paid, so.
Well, we do have some new board members.
Oh, they did, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't.
We beat this horse to death.
Yeah.
We just feel like no one can make a guarantee that we're not going to have any future obligations related to this pension, but by all accounts, we will not. So,
Well, in the event that we did, we could give it back, couldn't we?
on that cash flow.
Private check.
Okay.
Historically, the legacy payments, such as, a pension issue, would not count against the 4% if the trustees so desired, the 4% spread. So, food for thought as you guys contemplate whether you'll approve a liquidation of this account.
Okay, so if everyone, we need a motion,
I'm glad to make a motion.
Rusty, glad we made the motion, we need a second. Second. We have a second. Any other questions?
Where will it go?
Into the operating
The
fund?
operating account, which is what we use to pay for grants and operations. Just so you're aware, about quarterly, we take a liquidation of the investments to fund the quarterly and strategic initiatives, our operations, our internal
The net
programs.
effect is
This
it'll
was
take
offset that.
91,000 less of a distribution next quarter.
Yes, sir.
All right, other questions? If none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Let's move into old business. Do we have any old business? Okay,
This is your section.
all right.
That's your section.
So, all right, so let's move into the open discussion. start with Harvey. Do you have anything you'd like to share, bring up?
I have a question. I'm gonna say, no, nothing.
What's that?
Nothing.
Okay,
I'm gonna say no question.
all righty. Ken?
Nothing to add.
All right. Dr. Ortolani for your first meeting.
No, ma'am, no, it's not.
Okay. Mr. Stephanie?
We're excited to have you, guys.
Happy to be here.
Yes, we're very happy. Jenny?
Just welcome. Welcome to new trustees.
All right, hearing none, if there's nothing else, we will adjourn the meeting. Would you still-
Great job.
We should definitely